Alright, greetings. So the first button, the highest common factor, you see I've declared my variables locally here. Alright, so normally we do it there, but I've done it locally here. So I've got inum1, inum2, so these are the two numbers that the user will generate using the input boxes. I is just for my for loop, I least, you guys will see why I use that, and I common will be used to store the highest common factor. Okay, first things first, let's get those two numbers from the user. So I'm gonna go quick, guys, because I mean you need to sleep and eat and go on Instagram, you know. But please make sure you understand this work, guys. Exams are around the corner and it's important. Okay, so input box, the first thing, you name your input box. I'm just going to say input 1. Then you give your instruction. So I'm going to say enter input. And then just empty quotes for the user. Right, I'm going to copy this for the second input box. So as soon as they type in their first number, they'll say, okay, another input box will pop up. And I'm just going to call this input box 2, same instruction, and please store that in variable inum2. But remember, input box gets string. Where are you putting it? You're putting it here. What kind of variable is this? Integer. You're trying to put string into integer. So, thank you, Enzo. String to int. Yes, must be awake. Okay, string to int, same thing here. String to int. Alright, you guys remember in class, the for loop loops to the lowest number. So if inum1 is 8 and inum2 is 24, we want to loop to 8. Why? Because there's no point testing if 9 and 10 of common factors. How is 9 and 10 in 8? So we go from 1 to the smallest. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so basically we need to determine which is smaller, inum1 or inum2. So we use if statements. If inum1 is larger than inum2, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to store inum2 in a variable called iLeast. iLeast, you can say iSmallest. It basically just means whatever you put into this variable will be the smaller of the two. So let's go through this again. If inum1 is greater than inum2, what does that mean? It means this is maybe 20 and this is maybe 10. It means 10 is smaller, né? So I'm storing inum2 in a variable called iLeast. And you guys are going to see I'm going to use iLeast for my for loop. Right, so for I is equal to 1 to what? 1 to, do I now say inum1? How do you know inum1 is smaller? Or how do you know? Did this somehow spit out the fact that inum1 is smaller than inum2? No. We have a variable here that stores the smallest number. But this is not actually complete, guys. Because what if this if statement is not true? What if inum1 is not greater than inum2? It means this one is less. What must we do then? So we need an else. Did you guys notice what I did there? I'll go back. You can't do this else with a semicolon. Look, if I hover my cursor there, no, it doesn't help me. Take away the semicolon. Remember also when you use else, there must be a begin and end without the semicolon. Very important. Begin, end without the semicolon. Yes, I'm sounding like a robot now. Right, but in anyways, if this is the case, it means that you must put inum1 into this variable because inum1 is smaller. Okay, so then, do I put inum2 there now? No, we put iLeast. Okay. Guys, notice my indentation. I don't want the stories of sir, I will do it, or you guys don't do it. When will you do it? Tomorrow is in the past. Yesterday is in the past. Today is the present. Tomorrow, so what did Kung Fu Panda guy say? Tomorrow is a mystery. Oh, flip, I don't know. Today's the present. Today's a gift. That's why it's called the present. There we go. Got it. Right, anyways. So I'm looping from 1 to the smallest. And now I just have to ask the question. If I num1 mod I is equal to 0. Right. What did I do there? I'm testing. Let's say they enter the number 24 in that first input box. If 24 mod I, so I'm looking at the remainder, is equal to 0, that means I goes perfectly inside I num1. Now let's say, for instance, I happens to be equal to 1, meaning 1 goes perfectly into 24, which is almost true. There's no remainder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 24. It goes perfectly. Okay, that means I is a factor of 24. But we're looking for common. So we want to test if the same I can also go perfectly into the other number, which happens to be stored in I num2. Alright, so if only both these conditions, this condition and this condition, are true, this if statement will be satisfied. Why? It's because I use the AND. Very important, guys. It's the small things. Notice I've got brackets here. You need brackets. Look what happens if I take the brackets out. Please don't be happy. This has proved my point. It's not happy. Look, it's throwing, it's cooking, it's just not good. You place brackets when you've got two conditions and AND. Right. There's the if statement. Do I start coding? No. You put a begin and an end. If you've got a for loop, you put a begin and end. If you've got a while loop, you put a begin and end. If you've got an if statement, you put a banana and a begin and an end. Okay, good. So, in other words, if we found a factor, what must we do? Oh, look at my variables. I've got I common. Ooh, I can use that. Tab, and I'm going to store I, because I is a factor, in I common. Okay, good. So, I'll go through this. I will start at 1. Why does it start at 1, sir? What do you see there? It's 1. Okay, good. On the same page. So we test 1 first. Is 1 a factor of both? Yes. Okay, we store it. But remember, we're looking for the highest one, so we're not finished yet. I becomes 2. So why don't you have this? Why don't you have this? Inc I. No, guys, this is a for loop. This is not a while loop. If it was a while loop, you would have to increase I. In a for loop, I increases automatically. Right, so I will become 2. Is 2 a factor? Yes, maybe. So 2 will be stored there. The fact is, once this for loop finishes, I common will have the last common factor, which will be the highest one. And then we just need to display it inside mem display. Guys, in the exam, if you write let's say you write mem display. I'm going to misspell it now, but let's say in the exam you didn't, and you write mem display perfectly, but it doesn't work. Guys, just check the name. Sometimes they call it mem Goliath, right? You check the name, mem display. Don't panic, just chill, breathe, wax on, wax off, Mr. Miyagi. Okay, right, what am I displaying? Okay, so first some words. The highest common factor of what? Now I've got to say of the two numbers, okay? So I need numbers, so I've got to put the numbers now. I'm going to say int to string I num1, okay, plus, then I need the word and, so back to string and, okay, then I need the other number, int to string I num2, then I need the word is, and then I need the answer, which is in I common, so int to string I common. Alright, so why do you have 2 brackets there? Oh, it's not happy. Look, hover your cursor there. it's not showing. Hey. But the point is, it was not happy. Guys, I know I'm sounding sarcastic here, but you guys actually, I'm proud of where we are, but we need to practice. Like, you've learned a lot of material, but the practice is not there. You guys have potential. You guys are actually learning quickly. I'm just making this sound easy to try and convince you guys to give it a go. You guys are way ahead of most grade 10s at this point, but you need to practice. Otherwise, it doesn't matter being ahead, you get 7%. Don't mention names there. Okay. Alright, I think that's it. Let's test it. Right. So the input box pops up. Why does the input box pop up? Because we asked it to. Let's put 24. Okay. 8. Okay. What are we expecting? 8. The highest common factor of 24 and 8. Oh, there's no space there. Oh, we're going to fix that. Let's test one more. Let's do 8 and 16. We are expecting 8. Good. Alright, let's go fix that problem there. There was not... Alright, between the number and the word is, I'll just add a space. Alright, and there we go, guys. Notice this line is very long and it's not cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to press enter, tab, tab. Oh, it looks a bit neater, easier to read. Everything's nice and neatly indented. Indented, please. Thank you. Alright, guys. Cool beans. Cheers. Bye. Sleep well. How long is this video? Oh, good.